is Trish with Peregrine Designs and also with Myers Sewing. I live in Colorado Springs and I've lived here off and on since 1966, and I bought all my machines from Myers Sewing. So Nick at Myers Sewing took it over from his dad, who took it over from his dad. So Myers Sewing has been around since 1952 and is a real staple in the community and a real center of gravity for all of us sewers. And I buy all my machines from Myers. And Nick had made a comment to me. He said, you know, if you're doing a YouTube video, would you like to showcase one of our machines when you do a video? And I said, I'd love to showcase a machine. And I know exactly what machine I wanted to showcase. And that is the Baby Lock Accomplish. What is the Baby Lock Accomplish? The Baby Lock Accomplish is a mid-line industrial machine. Is it as powerful as a true industrial machine? No, it is not. But it is a wonderfully hard, very solidly built, very fast machine that for most sewers is perfect, absolutely perfect. So I wanted to do fast forward because we live in Colorado Springs. Colorado Springs is a real center of gravity for a lot of military folks. We have posts, we have bases, we have a lot of military folks. And I had a very nice client come to me, a young woman came to me, and her fiance had passed unexpectedly. And she was very sad. And she brought me his uniform. I think they call them the ACU. In my day, it was called the battle dress uniform, BDUs. Now I think it's ACUs or multicams, but the military uniform of the day. And she said, can we do anything with this where I can have him close to me forever? And I said, you know, that's a wonderful idea. And so we dreamed up and we said, let's make a military uniform tote. And we love the idea. And so this is the result that I made, and I'll show it to you right here. And this gives you an idea, U.S. Army and the rank, and the name would be here. But this is the military tote that we'll be making for this video. This is not a particularly difficult tote to make, but what makes this challenging is because you're using the ACU, or you're using this very sturdy and substantial fabric. Because remember, this has got to go on a soldier, and a soldier is worse than a 3-year-old. They can trash your uniform in nothing flat. And so the uniform by design has got to be very structural. Great, perfect, but it also will make a very structural, very strong tote. But it will also, if you try to do this kind of work, particularly when you're working with the strapping and that sort of thing, if you try to do this kind of work with a home machine, I think you're going to be frustrated and you're going to break some needles and you're going to have bad words come out of your mouth, and you'll be very frustrated because a home machine is not quite calibrated to work on this level of intensity. The Accomplish is. Like I said, it is a midline industrial that has great potential, very fast and very strong. And so for most sewers, this is a wonderful machine to add to your sewing room because you need it. You're going to be tackling this kind of work, and you're going to need a machine that can tackle it better than a home machine. So I wanted to give you 2 flavors here, learn how to make the tote and learn what the advantages of the Accomplish are. As a collaborator with Myers, and I'll show you on, I think, the description box, and I'll actually write it down on paper. But if you contact Nick, and I'll give you a phone number, if you contact Nick with questions or, you know, what to do, there's a 10% discount code and also a free shipping. So that's great. And we'll talk about the pros and cons of all of this. So I wanted to bring both of these to you, and I hope you will enjoy the show. But it's good to have you here, and let's get started. Okay, now we get to talk about the Baby Lock Accomplish. Why this machine is because it's a great blend of industrial and the capacity of more of a home machine. I have, you know, I really like this machine. It really meets the needs of most sewers. It is powerful. It's designed to be very powerful. It's a straight stitch only, and it goes 1,500 stitches a minute, which is about twice as what most normal home machines will do. I do have an industrial, and so we're going to play off the Accomplish versus the industrial so that you can get a better idea. Hey, does this work for you? I have an industrial. It is a King Max. I call her Queenie, and so she is a high-end industrial machine that does all kinds of great things. But is she as capable in some respects as the Accomplish? No, and I'll talk to you about that. why. So here is the Accomplish. One thing that's really nice about the Accomplish, let me see if I can squeeze in here. Boy, that's tight. These things right here, these dictate where the feed dogs go. This bottom one here is for heavyweight fabric. The one up above is for middleweight and lightweight fabric. Great. The third one, this little red one here, is the pin. It has a pin that comes up. What does that do? That means that it jabs that fabric and it makes your top fabric and your bottom fabric move together. Kind of like, kind of reminds me of a little bit of a walking foot. You'll use that on like velvets and really tough fabric that really wants to slide on you. And the top one, and this is where the Accomplish is very different than a home. This top one right here, this means that the feed dogs are non-operable. They go below. What does that allow you to do? It allows you to free motion quilt. Can I free motion quilt on my King Max? No, I cannot free motion quilt. I cannot get the feed dogs to come down. So for that factor, being able to free motion quilt on a machine like the Accomplish is fabulous. Boy, that's great. You can cut the fabric and, you can have it go in the needle up and down, and this is a stitch length. There's a lot of really good tutorials on how to stitch and how to do this machine, but I really like the machine, and there are a couple reasons why you need to reconsider this in your sewing room. One is the feed dogs, being able to free motion quilt, and a quilting foot comes with it, which is great. That's a big deal. The other thing that's really nice about the machine, she goes 1,500 stitches a minute, which is about twice what a home machine will do. Most home machines go about 800 stitches top speed. She goes 1,500, and she is heavy duty, and she will go through she will power through what we're about to do well. Will a home machine power through my bag? No. The home machine will bark at you and say, "What do you think you're doing to me?" But the Accomplish will power through because that's what she's designed to do. I'm sorry, I always look at a machine and think of it as a her, so I always call them her. So sorry, you'll have to forgive me. Another big advantage to the Accomplish is you can use a conventional thread. She will tolerate a regular Mettler, Coates and Clark, Gutermann, Robeson Anton. She will tolerate all of those threads well, because she will also, one of the big advantages to the Accomplish is she also will do heavy duty, but because you have, this ability in here to adjust the feed dogs, she will also sew well lightweight fabrics. Let's say you're making a shirt out of a very, very fine, lightweight fabric. She will do well. This will do well. She will not do well. She does not like that. She wants to power through sheet metal, and a very gentle shirt, a very lightweight shirt is too light, not awesome. A little bit more difficult to make it work on the King Max, but she will do it great. Those are some of the big advantages. So you can use all of your home threads on the Accomplish. What do I have to use on the King Max? The King Max really appreciates a heavier weight thread called a Tex 40. And so it comes in a Tex 40. Let me show you what a Tex 40 looks like. This is a Tex 40. It's very thick, it's very heavy, much more substantial thread. Because the industrial because how fast does an industrial go? Wee fast. The Accomplish will do 1,500 stitches, and that's very quick, and that's legit quick sewing. The industrial will go comfortably 3,000 stitches. I imagine if you have a straight stitch industrial, it will go upwards of 4,000 or 5,000 stitches. But my argument to you is it goes as fast as you go. That's the bottom line. It can go very, very fast, but it will not go any faster than you want to go. So 1,500 stitches a minute is generally pretty legit for most home sewers. And as we get on to this, I'll go ahead and show you, but I do like a lot of the features. Some things I would like better, and I'll try to grab some of those things that I think, I would like a better light. They have a light here, but I would much prefer having a big light here. Throat plate isn't bad. The throat plate is about 9 inches here. On the King Max, on my industrial, the throat plate is about 10.5 inches, but I find 9 inches is going to be fine. Let's see. That's all I can think of to abuse you with, so let me go ahead and start sewing. Let's talk about what you're going to need to make this. First, you're going to need, obviously, your military uniform. All I did was I used the shirt only. I didn't buy any pants. Pants would give you more options for your strapping for sure, but what you really need is the shirt piece. And like I said, I used a small, long, and that seemed to be enough to make this size bag. Shapeflex. Shapeflex is called SF101. It's a Pellon product. You can find it at Joann's, Walmart. Many of your sewing stores will carry Shapeflex. You'll need about 3 yards of Shapeflex. Large needle. A good size needle, a denim size is good, jean size is good, 100/16 is a good size needle. You're going to need something strong to go through what we're going to go through. 1.5-inch strapping. You'll need 2 yards. I normally buy mine through Amazon, but and I use a ton of it, so 1.5 inch is comfortable on my shoulder, so that's a nice size. You're going to need stitch witchery. It comes in like a roll if you buy it from Joann's or wherever. I tend to use the 1/2 inch wide. That's a nice width, and that's a very useful width of stitch witchery. You're going to need some lining fabric, and you can do anything from brown to green to black, whatever color lining is, grabbing your eye. You'll need about 2 yards, and because we shape flex the lining, you can go with a little bit less expensive lining because the shape flex will give it much more stability, and it'll make it, great. So you'll need about 2 yards of lining. If you are going to, if you need to talk to Nick, let me give you his number. It's area code 719-596-1165. He's more than happy to help answer your questions and talk you through the details of how this works. But if you're interested in a 10% discount and free shipping, and that's 10%, you can also buy notions and feet and cutting things and all kinds of things from Myers, and you'll get a 10% discount if you use this code. And the code is on your computer. Type in myersewing.com/Peregrine Designs, and that's one word, but that should give you the 10%. If in doubt, give Nick a call. He's very, very helpful, and he's more than happy to talk to you about what a great machine this is. So hopefully that's answered what you're going to need to make this bag. Okay, let's start making the bag. Here is a uniform that I purchased on, I think at Goodwill, and this is a small long. That's the size of this thing. Small long. Okay, so that's good because, sorry, I'm bumping you. Because I want to give it to you, I want to do it with a small because anything larger than this will be, Lucky Strike Extra. What you're going to want to do is take this uniform, and I'm going to go ahead and start cutting it. And I'm going to cut it on the seam right here. Okay, so I'm going to start cutting because what I want to do is create 2 panels. And you see the gist of what I'm doing. I'm going to go ahead and cut up here. I'm going to cut up here. On this panel right in here, I'm going to cut right here. Then I'm going to come across the top, and I'm going to cut across the top. And then I'm going to cut across, I'm going to cut out the collar, and I'm going to come down here. And I'm going to cut this entire thing out, and then we'll start to do the measurements. I've gone ahead and cut it out, and now I've got a panel this is my front panel. And what I'm looking for is, because this is a small long, I'm kind of limited in how much room I've got. But I went very tight to the top. You can see that my line is just skirting that collar here. And then at the bottom, I went down north-south 17 inches. So here's my 17-inch line here. So from here to here is 17 inches. Then I cut as wide as I could, which comes out to be not quite 17, probably more like 16 3/4, but I can play with that because what I'm going to do is I'm going to use this as my guide, and I'm going to use this as a pattern for the back. So roughly what you're looking at is 17 this way and 17 this way. Okay, so will it sit up that tall? No, because what I'm going to do, and we'll do it, we'll have a box pleat on the side, and the box pleat is going to be about 5 inches wide. And that will take that 17 and make the finished height roughly about 12 or 13 inches. So that's a very nice height for a bag. And so go ahead and do this, and then we'll go ahead. I need to prep this up a little bit as well. I'm starting my cuts, and you can see this is the bottom of the shirt, and this is the bottom. Obviously, they have zippers in them now. And so what I'm going to do is I want to cut just like that, but I've got to go through this zipper, and that's a lot, and I won't be able to go through this. This is called a molded zipper. I won't be able to go through that unless I open this up a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift up my zipper, okay, and then go ahead, and now I can go ahead and cut. I want you to be able to see this. I'm going to cut between the teeth. Can you see that? I hope so. Okay, so that's between the teeth. Hold that piece of fabric. Okay, and continue your cut here. Cut between the teeth. This is the only part that gets really interesting. Okay, and hold on to this piece of fabric. I need this. So now your bottom looks like that right there, and you have a zipper that has been cut off. But now you've got to remember, I've got to do a seam allowance on this, so I will need to sew this bottom piece, but I can't have this zipper in the way. Lift your zipper up a little bit, just get it out of the way. I'm going to go ahead and cut off part of my zipper teeth. I don't need them. They are not serving any purpose, so I'm going to go ahead and cut a fair amount of them off, because I've got to make a seam on the bottom. I got to join this thing together, and I don't want to have any potential that I'm going to cut through, or I'm going to sew through a zipper, because if you sew through that, I don't care what kind of machine you have just blown your machine up and should be very sad. So that is absolutely out of my way. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and take the zipper pull it off. It's done now. It won't be able to go back on. And go ahead and fold it up. I'd love to be able to hold on to the zipper pull, but I don't have any zippers like this, and I can't use this pull, so I'm going to have to pitch it. Very sad. Go ahead and finish your cuts over here. Go ahead and finish this cut over here, this cut, and the cut at the top. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to stitch witchery, because I don't want to have to contend with any of this nonsense in here. I'm going to go ahead and stitch witchery, a lot of this closed, and then I'm going to go ahead and take it to the sewing machine, and I'm going to go ahead and sew down here. Why? I just don't want to have to screw with this. I don't want this to potentially be a problem where you have the bag and you didn't secure this, and this comes open, and now the zipper open, and it just becomes a really hot mess. So I don't want to do that. So I'm going to go ahead and do that in just a minute. I've gone ahead and cut the main piece here, and then what I did was I put a little bit of stitch witchery, just a little piece right behind here, and I put it between this two, and then I sealed this so this is nice and flat, and this won't be moving around. I put a little bit of stitch witchery in the bottom just to make sure this is around. And I use this as a template, as a pattern, and I've cut the back as well. Okay, so the back has now been cut. This is the back. And the BDU is designed for, allowing soldiers to move freely, a lot freer. So you've got these little gussets in the side that's allowed to, give soldiers a chance to not get bound up in their outfit. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take some stitch witchery, and I'm going to fuse this down here and this down here. I don't need this flapping. I don't need this flapping open. You also, if you wanted, instead of stitch witchery, you could go ahead and just take it to the machine and go ahead and sew it down here and sew it down here, and that's a good idea as well. You can do it either way, that'll be fine. In fact, if you were going to wash it, that's probably a smarter idea, because it'll hold up to a wash better. So here's your back, here's your front, and now I told you to hold on to all of your fabric. Here is this is the bottom of the back piece, and so this piece I'm going to go ahead and start cutting to make the channel, to the tube for my 1.5 inch strapping. But on your, you had some sleeves, and this is an interesting piece. This is This is a piece a soldier would wear this, and a lot of times your unit designation would go right here. You know, if you're a really great sewer slash embroiderer, you could make your own really cool thing and Velcro it and stick it on here. You know, all kinds of weird stuff. So what I'm going to do, and they have it on both sides. Each side has a pocket here, and I thought that would be cute on the back because the back is looking pretty empty. But I thought one of these would be cute on the back because, you know, it is a pocket. It has the zipper. And it has a pocket. What you'd want to do is I'm going to go ahead and rip it up the back. Depends on what side you want your zipper to be, because one side it goes to the left and this side goes on the right hand side. So it depends on what side you prefer your zipper to be as you're playing with your bag. So I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, but remember here, I want to sew this down, and it gets very squeezy down in here. This just gets very, very squeezy. So I'm going to cut this out with a fairly healthy seam allowance on all sides, as much as I can cut. And then I'm going to go ahead and pull those down so that I have a place that I can sew without impacting on the functionality of the pocket. So let me go ahead and do that. Okay, I've done my pocket, my back pocket and everything, and I've fused that together so that it looks pretty good. It was very tight at the top, but I think I can make that work. And I put this down 3 inches from the top. So you can take a ruler here and put it 3 inches from the top, roughly centered, and that will be fine. Then what I did on both the front and the back is I shape flexed with a piece of shape flex 17 by 17. Is shape flex absolutely necessary with BDU fabric? No. Shape flex is really great, and it's not absolutely necessary with this, but once I shape flex it, it becomes very substantial, and it will become a very functional bag, and it'll hold, you know, a whole bunch of weight. The front, you know what I need to do with the front is I need to sew that right down there, and then my front will be ready to go. I put a pin at the top, a clip at the top. Why? That tells me that something needs to be done with this. It's just my way of telling myself, hey, stupid, you know, you got to do something with this. Don't forget. So this is, I need to do something with this. I need to do something with the back. Then what I've done is I've cut up all the pieces that I can get. And I still have more pieces because you've got pieces on the sleeve, but I'm looking for pieces, you know, as much as I can get. At least 4.5, preferably 5 inches long or wide, because I've got to cut it and I've got to make this go over my strapping. So I'm going to go ahead and take all of these pieces. Don't forget, you have sleeves that can be worked too. So here's a piece of a sleeve here. You can see that was the button here. That's the piece of the sleeve. So I would look, if I needed more fabric, I would look at cutting a piece like this and try hard. You know, in the perfect world, the fabric doesn't have a lot on it. It doesn't have a pocket, doesn't have a padding, doesn't have Velcro, doesn't have this. And so a lot of this just has to be pieced together. It gets very challenging when you start to make it, when it has other pieces on top, particularly Velcro and multiple, you know, pieces like this. So you're trying to get as good a run as you possibly can so that this isn't driving you nuts. Go ahead and take this to the machine, and we're going to go ahead and sew these together and do what I need to do up here. I started to sew, and I'm going to go ahead and sew this down. You'll notice that when I added my extra fabric, I'm only sewing on the fabric, so I don't have to contend with any of the bulk here. This becomes particularly important when you're working with the bottom piece here, particularly over here. You can see how much bulk I have. That is just a huge amount of bulk. And if you tried to sew from here all the way over to here, just on this edge right here, and you hit that bulk, I don't care what machine you have, the machine is going to sit up and bark and say no, and you're going to break a needle and it's going to be sad. So you need to give yourself a little bit of room here to be able to get this down and avoid this bulk. So let's go ahead and do this. And you can leave the needle in the down position. Sometimes I'll put it in down, sometimes I'll put it in up, it depends. I'll put it in down now, okay. Because, let me put it on 3. Wait, okay, wait a minute. What am I trying to do? This bulk right here, this corner bulk, that will be very sad for a machine. Your machine will hate you, and I don't care what kind of machine you have, that's going to break a needle. So you'll have to accommodate for that. Nothing is perfect, but it will not tolerate. That's just way too hard, and that's going to really jam up your machine. So go ahead, and you're going to go ahead and finish the sew. Let me put myself back on. You're going to go ahead and finish the sew all the way up and all the way over. And remember, on this one, I wanted to sew down here. I've fused it, but I'm going to go ahead and sew down just to make sure that she doesn't flap. I've sewed what I need to do on my front and my back, and now I'm working on the 1.5 inch strips. I told you to cut them about 4.5, maybe 5, just to make sure that you have enough. And so I've done one. Here is the other, and I cut my strip at 35 inches. I cut it at 35. Somewhere between 33 and 36 is your sweet spot. Why the difference? Because I don't know how tall you are. Because some women are really tall, and so they want a longer strap. They'll maybe want a 35, 36 strap. Some women like me are, about 5'5", and I don't need quite that much. I'm 33 works well, so I'm just going to split the difference, and I'll just do a 35-inch strap. So here is my 35, and this is my variety of pieces that I've pulled together. I'm trying to place this in a way where I don't have real challenges. I'm not trying to go through Velcro. I do have some bulk here, but I don't think it's enough to be a real problem. So what I've done is, gone here, put it close to the edge. I don't need a lot. I don't need, any extra. And go ahead and cut. Let me cut this piece right here. And if you think you're going to make some more of these and you're going to get some more BDU fabric, go ahead and hold on to the good pieces like this, and then you'll just channel them and you'll make future pieces, so there's no sense in revisiting how to do this. Go ahead and take this, and what I'm going to do is put it, you don't shape flex it, leave it alone. And I've opened my seams here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put it here, and let's do it this way because this is a little straighter at the top. Put it here, and I'm going to go ahead and put it down here. I'm going to fold it down. You can see what I'm doing here. I'm going to give myself some work here. I'm going to pre-crease, sorry. Go ahead and do that and finish that on both of them. And then what we're going to do is we're going to bring this side up. All right, and then we're going to turn it over like that, and then we're going to put, we're going to crease it, we're going to iron it, and we're going to put clips in it to go ahead and hold it so that we can go ahead and sew it. I've clipped, and I've kind of stretched it taut to try to take out any excess in wrinkles and stuff like that, and I'm going to go ahead and take it to the machine, and I'm going to sew it with roughly 1/4 inch stitch, 2.5, 3 in the fashion color, so, OD green, OD brown. Go ahead and sew here, and go ahead and sew here, and then we'll start to play with the lining. All right, you finished your, your strapping and everything. Don't be surprised. There are some pieces in here that this is very, very thick, and this is hard. So it's not uncommon for me to go ahead and hand walk my flywheel through some of the real bad joins, because just the bulk of them is serious. Will I do that with my industrial? Yes, because when you're going to hit it, it'll break a needle too, and I just hate breaking needles. So it's not uncommon for me when I hit one of these exceptionally hard joins, just hand walk that through. And that's, that's the fact of how you're going to do it. You're just going to have to do that. So now we're done with our strapping, okay? And now let's go ahead and do our pockets. This is the lining. I chose a dark brown, and then I didn't have enough, so I chose this for my pockets. I think that's fine. This is 17 by 17, so this is your lining. And your pocket is 17 wide. Your pocket is 17 wide. Here's 17 wide. This is 17 wide. But I made the pocket a little bit shorter. I think I made it about 16 inches long because I need a fairly nice pocket, you know, deep enough to be able to get my stuff into. So 17 by 17 for the lining piece, and 17 wide by about 16 inches, 15, 16 inches north-south. And then let me go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to fold it. We're going to do some stitching at the top. We're going to put some pocket dividers here, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish up the bottom of this so it looks very pretty. And I'll show you in just a minute. Everything was shape flexed. Your pockets have been shape flexed. The entire pocket has been shape flexed, and I have 2 pockets, and your lining has been shape flexed. And it's okay to Frankenstein your lining. You're just not going to see it, and any sew is going to be covering that. So that everything is shape flexed. Then what I did with my pocket, it's still 17 wide, right? I folded it in half, and so that's the fold up top. And then what I did on the bottom here is I used a straight edge, kind of like this right here, and then I use that as a straight edge to kind of pull this down and iron it so that I get a nice crease that is pretty. I like it. I tend to do 2 types of pockets. I will do 2 individual pockets. So this is a 17 inch, so this is 8.5 right here. I'll do 1 center pocket that affords bigger things. And then my second pocket, because it's 17 inches wide, and I think this is a useful size, I will do 1, 2, 3 pockets. What I did was I marked 8.5 right here, and then I used my 6-inch ruler, put my 6-inch ruler here with the 8.5, and then I marked it this way. And if you have an I love me tag, I'll go ahead and put it on this pocket right here. So let's go ahead and do those. What I'm going to do is take it to the machine, and I'm going to go ahead and edge stitch both the tops of all of this, and then we'll put it on the actual lining and finish this up. I'm ready to do the pocket. This was the 17 by 17, and you can tell, but I had this is the selvage right here. So I'm going to put the selvage at the bottom because there's no sense in putting it where it potentially is seen. So I don't, want to see it. I put a line 3 inches down from the top. That gives the pocket a nice place to sit. And then I'm going to put my pocket on here. And here's the top of my pocket right here. Here's the bottom. Make sure that you've creased that. Make sure that that looks good. Put this on the pocket itself. Use your line as a guide. Get that in. And let's go ahead and we'll start to clip this. Okay, so now this is clipped and ready to go, and you'll do the same on the other side. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it to the machine, all right, and I'm going to go ahead and sew. I will go ahead and sew this line right here, and I'll normally start from the bottom because I'll work any of my problems out at the top. So I'll start from the bottom, come up, double tap it up here a bunch of times. If you like, you can always come back down. This is the only piece. This gets very stressed right in here, so reinforcing this area right up in here is important. And then I'll go ahead and sew 2.5 stitches about right. I want this to be tight, and I don't want this to come loose, so I'm going to go ahead and sew a narrow piece here. I'll sew all the way down here to finish this up. On the sides, you can go ahead and do the sides as well. You don't need a long short stitch. You can do a 3.5 and 4 on the sides. You can base the sides in. Go ahead and do that to both linings. These are finished, and make sure that these are in the up position. This is the up position, not this one, but this is the up position. Put them together, right sides together. Okay. Then what I want you to do is take it to the sewing machine, and I want you to sew a 1/2 inch down here, pivot, and come here. See these red marks right here? How big are these red marks? I don't know. That big. that big. So I want you to leave an opening. Why? Because this is the channel that we pull everything through. So I want you to leave a nice big gap here, and I've just got it about hand width. Go ahead and come here. So here, stop, start again over here, back stitch, come back up, 1/2 inch, and let's go ahead and finish this up, and then I'll show you how to box it. I've sewn all the way around. Now let's go ahead and box the corners, box the bottom. Go ahead and open it up. You've done it right sides together. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll take a ruler and shove a ruler in there. And you can see what I've done. See how the ruler is like that? I'll take it, and pull the ruler out so I want to create a triangle. Sorry. So here's the edge here. Sorry. So here I've, taken the edge and I've turned it, instead of it being like this, I've taken this center line and made it in the center. So I'm creating kind of a pyramid right here. So take your, I'm really jacking with you. Take your ruler, okay, shove that in to that corner, to that triangle. What that does is that fills it out and kind of squares it up. Okay, and my ruler is in there. I can feel my ruler because that's my ruler. And what I'm looking for, in the perfect world, what I'd like is, dang it, this thing's getting hung up. Okay, this is a 6x6 ruler. You can kind of tell here, and you can kind of tell here, right, where that is. I want to put this seam right here. Let me see if I can squeeze in a little bit. I want to put this seam that is right here. Okay, here's my ruler right here. Here's my seam. So I'm off. I want to move this seam over to be where my ruler is, all right? Because I want my seam on top of my corner of my ruler. So let's go ahead and scoosh that around a little bit and see if we can play with that. The ruler just helps to place the seam better. Here is my ruler here. I can feel my ruler. Here's my seam. Let's move it over a little bit more. And you'll fiddle with it, get it right. Okay, that's closing in on getting right. I'm going to fiddle with it a little bit more, and then I'm going to crease it, and then we'll mark it. My ruler is in here, and I use my friction pen. I used my friction pen, and I made a line where my ruler is. Not a problem with the friction. It disappears when you put hot steamy iron on it. So I put my ruler, it's right at about where I want it to be. So I made a mark here just for you visually. Then we're going to take your ruler, okay, and let me scoosh this in a little bit more. Okay, take your ruler, and a lot of times on your rulers, you're going to have a 60 degree or 45 degree. 45 is helpful. And I want to do 2.5. If I did it like this, let me see if I can go really close. If I did it like this, that is 3 inches. From here up to here at the top, that's 3 inches. I want 2.5. I don't need a, so what I've done is I've kind of come up, here's the corner here, and I've put my 2.5, here's 2.5 right here, and I've put it on my corner here, okay? And then I've used, you can use that 45 if you like. Here's 2.5, here's my corner, and here's my, here's my seam line right here. Here's my corner. I know I'm about right because I can see that I'm paralleling, that 45 degree angle is paralleling my fabric. So then I go ahead and make the line. And that way I know I'm about right. This is going to look okay. This is going to look great. So go ahead and do that. Pull out your ruler and use a pin and go ahead and secure that in place. You're going to do that to the other side as well. Then what you're going to do is take it to the machine and you're going to sew on your line right here. And you can, stitch, backstitch here, backstitch over here, just make sure you get it, and go ahead and sew it on your line. And you'll do that for this corner and you'll do it for the other corner. I've completed both my boxes and I ended up ripping out one side because when I had sewed it, this side was all facing down, but this part was splayed open. So I ripped out just slight amounts of that so that they both are facing down. Does that matter? I just don't know if it matters all that much. I'm not sure that that really is a big deal. So I think those look kind of about right. I think so, maybe, kind of. Then what I'm going to do, and my opening is good. My opening is here, so I should be able to pull all that through. Do you need to cut this? You can if you like. I don't tend to have a huge need to cut it. I just don't have a huge need to cut it. So I don't cut it because I don't have to. So go ahead and we will leave this now. We're going to leave this inside out because when we put it, we're going to put it into the bag. So this piece is kind of done. Now what I want you to do is almost the same thing on here, but let's get the straps in on your actual bag itself. Now I want to put on the strap. So here's my strap right here. And if you're making multiples, make sure that you've used the correct strap, because I cut these at 35, but if I'm working a second bag, sometimes it's like, I'm putting a 35 and a 34 strap on, and then you're wrong. So these are the correct straps. They're mates to each other. I made a mark at the halfway mark with my friction pen. That's 8.5 right there. That's just to mark center. And then what I did was I off-centered it 4 inches, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I put my one strap here, and 1, 2, 3, 4, and put my second strap here. Make sure that you do not twist make sure that these are not twisted, and I can tell that they are not twisted because you can see if you do something like that, you know that they haven't been twisted. Go ahead and take it to the machine and go ahead and sew these straps down. This is a 35. This is going to be, it's going to be a little bit, it's going to be a nice length that I think will be fine. But if you wanted to adjust this, then you just shove your straps up more and make sure that whatever you've shoved up on this side, you've done to the other piece right here. Okay, so go ahead and double tap this a bunch of times because this is what's handling all the weight. So go ahead and make sure that that's well reinforced, and then we'll go ahead and put it together just like we did the lining. Okay, my straps are on both of my pieces and I haven't twirled them and everything, and I've double reinforced up here, and I've also double checked to make sure that when I put my other piece on, right sides together, that my straps are approximately equal in terms of where they sit. Both of them are sitting about right, and they're both the right length. So what I'm going to do is take it to the machine. You can move your, straps out of the way so you don't run the risk of sewing over a strap. That would be sad. And I'm going to go ahead and sew a 1/2 inch here. I'm going to come down, sew a 1/2 inch on the bottom, and then I'm going to come up and sew a 1/2 inch here. And 2.5 is fine. When you put your straps on, I just sewed it about 1/4 inch. Remember, your final sew is a 1/2 inch. So go ahead and do that. And then we're going to box these corners exactly like we boxed the lining corners. So I won't go over that. You've already seen that. Your boxing of your outside is done, and both the direction is going down or going up. Just to make sure that whatever direction you're going, both of them are going in the same direction. Otherwise, they're twisted, and I don't think it makes an enormous difference. But there again, it just is a big deal. It's not a big deal, but it's tiny. Do you cut this? You can. I don't cut the lining piece because it's lighter weight. This is a little bit more bulky, so I'm going to go ahead and cut it a little bit just to reduce a little bit of the bulk. Now, do you have to serge it? No, the Shape Flex will eliminate any real fraying, so there's no problem with serging, with fraying of this thing. And I went over this several times because I didn't want this box lining to tear out. I don't think it will, but there you go. Go ahead and turn this inside out, turn this to the right side, and we'll go ahead and put the lining on top. So we did the 2.5, you know, when we boxed it out, we did a 2.5, and you're thinking, how does that work? Remember, it's 2.5 this way and it's 2.5 this way. So how wide is my box? My box is about 5 inches wide. And so that's just a good rule of thumb so that you understand if you want to make a 4-inch box, a finish 4, then it would be 2 and 2, and then you appropriately do the math from there. How tall is this thing? This thing is reading right now about 12 inches tall, and I think that's a good size. I think that's a nice size, and I think that'll work out great. This is the right side showing. My lining is in the wrong side. Remember, I opened up the bottom for the lining because this all has to come through. This one I sewed shut because I don't want to have to mess with this. So this one, the lining, is where everything pulls through. So put right sides together, right side of this, right side of my lining, shove my lining on top of my bag, and let me get that done, and I'll show you. We're just going to sew around the top when we're done. My lining is on top of my bag itself, and these are right sides together, so you're seeing the lining, and then because they're right sides, they're going to pull out nicely. What I've done here, and it's just a knit-noy thing, it's kind of a, keep on banging you, it's a knit-noy thing, but what I did was I push one of my seams this way and one of my back seam that way, and then what that does is that nests in between each other, and then when I turn it inside out or right side out, that'll be a pretty join. Because I cut my lining very close to the size that I needed, you know, the lining is cut to the same size as my fashion fabric, I'm not running into a huge problem where I have a disconnect where I have either too much lining or too much fashion fabric. That's an important piece. You know, the lining has got to be doggone near, you know, exact or very close to what the fashion fabric is. Otherwise, you're going to have a disconnect here and you're going to have to play with it and make that work. So go ahead. This is looking great. I'm not seeing a huge disconnect. Take it to the machine and go ahead and sew a 1/2 inch all the way around, and 2.5 is fine. Color is immaterial, and then we're going to pull it out and we're going to be done. We've sewn along the top, and we have yet another sew. So remember, we double tap this one, and then we've done a final sew here. So the strap should be pretty on there. They should be able to hold a lot. Here's the opening, and I'm going to go ahead and pull it through the opening. Let me pull this through and I'll come right back at you. I've pulled everything through and the top looks good. Let's see what those look like. Remember, I nested those. Let me see, what does that look like? That's pretty good. Yeah, that's tight. That's nice. Okay, and so before we go final and fuse the bottom and finish up the bottom, do you have to fuse it? No, you can go ahead and sew it if you like, but I tend to fuse because it doesn't go anywhere and the bottom will be in the bottom, and it'll work out great. So what I'll go ahead and do is, once I like how this is looking and I think that this is going to fit inside nicely, and it will, and I like this, I'll go ahead and take my lining. Okay. Here's my lining, and it's still open, and I've taken a piece of fuse here. I'm going to go ahead and shove it in there. Make that pretty. And I'm going to fuse it shut. Let's say you goof this up and you say, dang, I got to get back in there. Just come at it. Just come at it with a hot steamy iron, and once it steams up a little bit, sometimes it gets kind of, you know, it opens up or gets a little gooey, and you can open it back up again. So you're not completely, you know, once you've fused it, is not the death. You're okay. So go ahead. I like that. Go ahead and shove it inside, and I'll go ahead and do that. I've gone ahead and finished, and I've put everything on the inside. I'm kind of holding this with one hand so I can show you the other. And then I've gone ahead and ironed. everything, and I like the way it looks. Go ahead and top stitch. You're going to go about 1/4 of an inch, and you can do a fairly large stitch. 3.5 is fine. You'll use fashion colors in your top thread and in your bobbin thread, but you are done. You are done. And so let's talk about the machine in just 2 seconds. Well, let's take a look at this. I really like this. I think this turned out great. I've got the Army designation and I've got the rank of, a soldier. I do like the way this turned out. This is very strong. And this is kind of cool because, you've got, this is a Velcro piece, but these are actual functional pockets, which I thought are great. Because we put our inside pockets at a 3-inch from the top, that makes the inside pocket very accessible. So I'm real pleased with that. But I think that turned out great. And in large measure, it turned out great because we had a machine that can kind of power through this. So let's talk now about the quality of the machine and what we like. Hopefully I've given you enough information so that you say, hey, this really has real potential for me. What did we like about the machine? I liked the fact that it will do free motion quilting, really liked that. Liked the fact that it had a pin needle or a pin needle that you could go with real fussy fabric, and you can accommodate everything from very lightweight fabric to heavyweight fabric. Really appreciated the variety of that. I like the fact that it will take a home thread. That's a great deal because I have a bucket load of home thread. The machine also comes with a knee lift. There's a knee lift, but the well that this sits in, the knee lift, I couldn't make the knee lift work, but it does come with a knee lift. I like that. It also comes with a walking foot. That's really great because then you can use it on fabric that you need to keep together, and it comes with a free motion quilting foot. So I really appreciated that. I like the speed of the machine quite a bit. I think 1500 is a very, very fast and very hard working machine. And I'll tell you, it's very portable. When we go traveling, and let's say we're going to go up with the kids and maybe go skiing or something like that, I always try to bring my machine with me and a project because I don't ski anymore, but that doesn't mean I don't sew. So they ski and I sew, and everybody is real, real happy. Some of the pieces and parts about the machine, price. What is the price of the machine? Well, this is March of 23. So right now, my understanding is it's sitting at right about $1,000, but don't quote me on that because, the prices change and I don't know about the change. How much is, if you were really thinking about an industrial machine, how much is an industrial? You're looking at 2x, 3x, 4x the price of this. So that's a consideration. Another piece that I really wanted to talk about too that's really important is service. This is just like any other machine you have. It will need to be serviced. And the nice thing about a baby lock is it's serviced all over the country. So if you live kind of out there, there's likely a baby lock service dealer within striking distance of where you live. So between the speed, the strength of the machine, and the factors that it will sew lightweight to heavyweight and use normal thread and this is a real valuable machine for most home sewers. And so I would encourage you to take a look at it. I would also encourage you to call Nick and ask him questions and see whether or not this makes sense for you. But I really hope you enjoyed making the tote and learning a little bit about the machine. And please, if you've got questions, give him a call. But thank you so much. And this is Trish with Peregrine Designs and Meyer Sewing. Thank you so much. Talk to you soon. Bye.